Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It's Wednesday. Let's take a look at some alts. Things are looking slightly better, mainly because Bitcoin has attempted a stabilization here. I'm recording this before the FOMC meeting today, so there may be some jostlations, if that's a word, in markets surrounding what Powell has to say. He probably comes out and says not much of anything, probably just status quo. They may hint at QT ending, but we'll see. That's something to watch for on the dovish side. Obviously, any language from Powell on the dovish side. Any progress on the inflation front, any progress on the unemployment front, whatever, any of that stuff. Any hints at forward guidance. Markets would like that. On the Bitcoin dominant side, still looks plenty bullish to me. Still looks like a potential cup and handle up here on a high time frame. There is a slight bear div. We've had bear divs a few times that haven't amounted to much. The previous mega down move was forecast by a bear div, but nothing says this can't keep going. I see people pointing this out, saying this is it. This is the one. It's time to get all into altcoins. I just don't see a rush to do that. Certain things will do better than others on any given day, but the dominant move here for Bitcoin is still winning against altcoins. To be bullish alts, I would have to see this below the cloud and look bearish. We're just not there yet. It's going to take rates coming down. It's going to take liquidity. It's going to take stimmies, Doge stimmies, whatever. Like if we're there in that conversation, in that reality, then you'd expect dominance to go down. You'd expect alts to do alt things. But until then, it's likely going to be tough for alts to do well broadly against BTC. And this is just the inverse of that. This is total 2 over BTC. Still bearish. This could be the stone cold bottom, but it's still bearish. And you could have said that at any point over multiple years. It just is what it is. It's the data. It's black and white. In this case, if you're below the cloud, you're bearish. So you are losing against BTC. Previously, it took 320 days after halving to effectively bottom for alts, but it also, even before that, took a bottoming period. So to be optimistic here, going into April probably isn't necessarily correct. What you'd want to see is a multi-month bottoming process, or at the very least get back above the cloud here, which you're nowhere close to. That's the other thing about dominance. It kind of masks the stablecoin prints in here. So you can strip out the stables from this calculation because I assume they put them in here, but looking at it like this, I think helps a lot. Alts remain bearish against BTC. Total 2 in a vacuum is also potentially showing signs of bottoming, a similar retail puke period that we see, a similar emissions inflation on the coin side, down move. Just think every day, BTC is X% coins per day versus all of the other altcoins that exist and will exist forever. That's one of the reasons why it's hard to beat BTC just based on math. So on total 2, I'd feel better about a bottom if come April, we have a mega inverted head and shoulders on this. I think it's going to take a minute for us to get back above the cloud here. And that's fine. It took several months to do this last year. It's doubtful that we do well in Q3. We typically don't have any bullishness in Q3, especially September. So if this doesn't bottom in Q2 or look bottomy in Q2 or consolidate and pop up in Q2, the next best time period is probably going to be Q4, unless there's some wild seasonality adjustment. Stables have been slowly rising up, so there's certainly a divergence here between alt liquidity as measured by stablecoins and alt market caps, but it's probably not enough to justify like new all-time highs in total 2 or whatever. I don't quite see that just yet. Looking at stables, USDT and USDC, since Trump has been elected, they both have done very well. A lot of the USDC issuance is relative to the MiCA regulations in Europe, but it's probably unlikely this gap closes anytime soon unless the US comes in and says, Tether, you know what? You got to do XYZ or you're going to get kicked out of the United States. That's how USDC wins this. The regulatory arbitrage, or not regulatory arbitrage, regulatory warfare, creating this regulatory moat and basically forcing exchanges to comply with a USDC-friendly regulatory environment. But otherwise, Tether remains the clear winner. Before we go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with a link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to US and US territory customers by Paired Ventures Inc., PBI, DBA, Kraken. I'm going to actually do the alt side of this on Kraken Desktop today. If you're unfamiliar, you can download this through Kraken. It's free. Super zippy, super fast, very low resource load is required to run this thing. And it's just as modular as Kraken Pro in the browser. But if you look at BTC on the daily, we look okay. Are we in bearish territory? Absolutely. This may pop up into April. I don't know. Like, does it look bearish enough to call this bearish continuation? I don't think so just yet. If Jay comes out and says bearish stuff, hawkish stuff, then we go lower. We probably don't go much past 80, but I can't imagine things are going to be happy, happy, fun time. If we can form anything into Q2 that is resembling a multi-week inverted head and shoulders with a neckline around 93, 94, 92, whatever, that would carry a very bullish bias, and alts will do well in that environment. It's a bit early to call that, especially if we look on the 4-hour. On the 4-hour, we still are not above the 4-hour cloud. So that's the low time frame litmus test is still neutral, not as bearish as it was. It's neutral. It's up to you to decide when you want to pull the trigger, if at all. I think this has been so noisy. A lot of people are just saying, you know what, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till things look better on a lower time frame because right now it doesn't make too much sense. So that's BTC, not bearish, not bullish, but alts take that as a win. Alts take that as bullishness. If we look at Ripple, if this wasn't Ripple, if I knew nothing about the news that SEC is dropping their case against Ripple, I would say this has a head and shoulders potential, and it's an avoid until you can get a bullish TK cross with price above cloud and ultimately a close above 285. It's nothing against Ripple. That's just what I see here. It's done well in that it hasn't broken below $2, and it's certainly picked up on the volume side of things. If you look, it's almost triple Ethereum's volume today. It is significantly higher than Solana's volume today. So it's doing well, but I don't see a reason to jump the gun on this just yet. And I would say that for any chart, no matter what it is. And the 4-hour is a complete mess here. There's really nothing to speak of. So XRP to me still fairly neutral. ETH pulling up ahead of FOMC today, but it has been very bearish since December. For some people, it's been bad enough to buy down here. It has popped up 5%. You think it was up 50% based on social media activity around ETH. It's going up instead of down. That's about it. But the high time frame view is still, to me, nothing I want to touch here at all. You'd want to see this stabilize or base for a period of time before I want to touch it. This may be mean reverting a little bit. It certainly got oversold, but it is not in bull trend territory like it was in 2023. So if it's not above the daily cloud, it's just not for me. And if it doesn't have some sort of 4-hour bottoming process at the very least, it's just not for me. Now, maybe we can come in here and we can get something like this over time, maybe with a neckline somewhere in here, but it's very early on that. But it's definitely up. It's up 6% today, so we'll take it. 8% today. Sol, same deal. Is there really anything here to do on low time frames? I think it's too early, personally, but it's a thing, right? You know, it's up to you. Where do you want to take this risk? Is this going to end up being something like this? Maybe. I think it's too early for that, but it's something to watch for, and it's certainly better than watching for complete and utter chaos and doom down to the core. So there is some hope here for a pull-up, but it's still just a bit early. And by next week, I expect we'd know what's going on there. Cardano 4-hour gave all the Trump pump back. Trying to base, really not much to say here. Just a huge mega range, maybe over time, like a lot of these other charts, we start to see more evidence for a high time frame inverted head and shoulders, but it is way too early on that one. SWE is down here below the cloud. You'd likely get some sort of mean reversion attempt. It is in a pretty aggressive down channel, but it is still below the Tenkin here, this blue line. So if you get one of these, if you get a TKC clamp situation, then you can get more comfortable with the mean reversion call and setup, but I don't think we're quite there yet on sweep, but it's looking better. It's looking better. You just really hope that this is not a vanilla bear flag that breaks down. Pepe, oddly, amongst everything, had one of the better 4-hour setups. It still does. It still looks like it is ready to break out. It's trying to get back above the 4-hour cloud. It's trying to break out of this inverted head and shoulders chart. And that's probably the most you can ask for right now. It's also down a considerable percentage, 70 to 80% from the highs in December. And this is the type of stuff I like to see. I like to see flat, just nothing for a while. And it wouldn't surprise me if you get a little bit of a bullish attempt to break out. Now this chart of all charts, Fartcoin, it is what it is also looking decent because it's also trying to bottom. It hasn't made a new lower low in a while, since March 10th. It has a clear horizontal resistance level. It's above a 4-hour cloud. In these lean times, again, what else can you ask for? That looks pretty good. And based on my watch list here, it's getting volume. You know, maybe it's a bad sign that the memes are so high on this list volume-wise, and that everything else is as low as it is, outside of maybe the top 5 here. But that's the market we have. Trade the market you have, not the market you want. Doge, not really doing much here. So below the 4-hour. On the daily also, it's down a significant percentage. Maybe you get this mean reversion set up next week, something to watch for, but it is nowhere near bullishness at all. The best time to be long anything is back here. And that's why it's important to catch this stuff as it's occurring, not after it occurs. But it's still, to me, a bit early on that, because your downside risk is another 50%-ish, 40 to 50% back to the breakout level. LTC, same deal. Really nothing to say on the daily here. Needs to get back above 113 to start to look bullish again. Tron is one of the more interesting charts because it is also trying to base. It is trying to get into this cloud here. It is trying to maybe attempt an edge-to-edge trade. So I say this again, in the lean times, maybe this is something to consider when there's not really much else going on. Hasn't made lower lows in a while. And you do have the cloud on your side a little bit on the daily. And most of this other stuff really just doesn't look like anything I'd want to touch. Tau here on the 4-hour. Maybe this is trying to bottom sort of with something. It's tough because it may look like it has a bias based on a descending triangle or a bear flag or a bear pennant or whatever, and it'll just break the other way anyway. So to me, you're better off waiting for the breakout. You're waiting to see, can this close in the daily in the 4-hour cloud or not? Okay, then you just wait. There's really nothing to do. Trump on the 4-hour, same deal. Maybe some sort of inverted head and shoulders here, but ultimately it needs to prove itself first before I would ever want to trade anything that looks like this. It's down significantly from the January highs. Link, more of the same. And, as we get deeper on these charts, this chart looks like the Doge chart. This chart looks like the AVAX chart. They all basically look the same. Ondo up a little bit today, but again, it looks like everything else. Is this a giant falling wedge like Total 2? I mean, it could be. It could be. And at any point for any of these charts, you could just say, well, my stop loss is clear. My stop loss is going to be new local lows. That's it. Okay, that's fine. I mean, that gives you a pretty decent risk reward setup, assuming some sort of mean reversion. But my confidence in that personally would be pretty low. Aave, same deal. Is this a falling wedge? Is this a bear channel? Will this be a mean reversion? I think it's too early to say. Certainly not bullish. You can say that as much. Monero, there's always certain people in the comments who get upset that I don't talk about Monero. It will always underperform in a bull market, and it will not be as bearish in a bear market. That's about it. Is there some massive setup here? I don't see it. It looks fine on the weekly. It looks fine on the daily, but I don't really see anything to do here. CAS bearish, DOT bearish. I saw somebody asking about bullishness at all-time lows or whatever for this chart. This is going to take time. I would love to see this make some sort of level at like 5, just like it did back here, you sort of have to earn it. And it's a little too early for me to care on that one. And we'll just zoom through the rest of these. Near, bearish, Popcat. I don't need to say anything there. FTM, way too volatile all over the place. Whiff, not quite back to that breakout point yet. Algo, looks like everything else. Ray, down from almost 9 to sub 2 very quickly. There may be a mean reversion play in here eventually, but you have to be careful and manage that risk because this thing has had many more sellers than buyers recently. So I'd want to see some strength on the 4-hour. I'd want to see a little more evidence on the daily that we're starting to bottom. And it looks a little early on that one. Aptos way down here on the volume list. Never a good sign for an alt. Nothing to be seen there. Bearish. TIA, I know some TIA fans out there. Those poor souls. Bearish. Maybe you're hoping for a diamond bottom eventually, but is any of this stuff that I'm talking about today like an A+ tier 1 setup? No, not yet. It's going to take time. It's going to take lots of time before any of this stuff, to me, starts to look any better. If we look on the BTC pairs quickly, it's really the same deal for most of these. To me, there's just nothing to do. They just all look pretty awful. ETH BTC scraping off the bottom a little bit, but what is there? I don't know. Is there a setup here? I don't think so. You're just hoping that this bounces. Still not even above the 4-hour cloud. Maybe some double bottom stuff there before the breakout, but would you really have trusted that on the 4-hour? For something that's down for the past 2 years? Probably not. Probably not. Ripple up a little bit. Again, on news today that SEC is dropping its suit against Ripple. It's held its level against BTC since November. So it's got that working out for it. LTC, just major mega chop. Really nothing to say there. Gold BTC also is starting to pull back a little bit. I posted today that gold had or has a bear div on this move higher. And that may bode well for BTC down the line. But so far it's been all gold since the beginning of the year. January was the bottom on PaxG BTC, and it's been straight up since then. Tron, not really much to do, but it's in the cloud. Maybe this is an inverted head and shoulders, right? Something like this. Again, is it the setup you want to take? I don't know. Maybe somebody does. Not me. Cardano, junk, XLM, not really much going on there. Doge, maybe this goes back to local lows. I mean, it certainly looks like it wants to, but what is there to do here? Nothing. There's nothing to do. Link, same deal, SNX, and I think you get the picture. It's either awful or very awful or extremely awful or all-time lows, right? Just not a lot to do just yet. But the good news is, the silver lining, everything is so bearish. Everything for the most part looks so awful that it's going to be obvious when things start to turn the corner. Just got to have patience. That's all I got for this one today. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.